Welcome to the weather forecast on the CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we're breaking down what you need to know about the weather that will affect the United States over the next 7 days. We're spotting another major storm is headed for the United States over the next few days, bringing with it another threat of significant severe weather, including damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. In addition, a summer heat wave will continue to affect much of the country, with record-breaking brutal temperatures continuing. Friends, yesterday we had a series of tornadoes in the Midwest, followed by damaging winds across much of the southeast, as well as the central and northern plains. Right now, we have this high-pressure system sitting over the southeast. However, there were some major storms and fires right around that time yesterday, and on top of that, they produced damaging winds. But further north, we have this moisture that's lingering around this high-pressure system, which is allowing for severe weather to occur, in addition to some short-wave troughs that have moved across the Rocky Mountains. We're expecting significantly more severe weather today in areas like the Midwest. Now, let's talk more about the severe weather potential over the next few days, starting today. We have a major threat for severe weather that extends from Oklahoma all the way down into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, as well as into the southeast. I think the main concern across the board today is going to be strong winds and hail. It's just not as widespread as that in terms of the severe weather threat. With all that said, we do think we're going to see a small, possibly localized tornado threat again today. However, we do think that the likelihood of us seeing a few tornadoes seems to be more likely in parts of Wisconsin, Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, and extreme northwest Illinois, where we could have some unusually severe storms. So that's an area that we'll need to watch very closely through the end of the day today. That's again a damaging wind risk. Then our tornado threat is actually a 5% tornado risk, which includes areas just north of Des Moines and just west of Madison, Wisconsin. Then as we head into Friday, the severe weather risk will continue to be high in the central and northern plains, where we could see the potential for some significant severe weather with very large hail, damaging winds, and maybe even a strong tornado or two. Then back in the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, we have a marginal threat. What we're going to see today with damaging winds and large hail is a possibility that will be relatively isolated to widely scattered. So the main concern across the board, at least for the northern plains, will be damaging winds and the potential for some very large hail. There's also a chance for a few tornadoes, which again could be on the strong side of things. I know we only have a 2% chance of a tornado right now, but I could easily see that being upgraded in the outlook going forward. Going into Saturday, we have another small chance for severe weather across some of the northern plains in the upper Midwest, including the Twin Cities back into central Nebraska, where all the potential for severe weather is possible, including damaging winds, large hail, and even the potential for a few tornadoes. But I think very large hail will be the biggest concern on Saturday. The severe weather threat is going to shift a little bit further east into some of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region, where all the severe weather threats are going to be. So this is where the severe weather starts today. We're expecting a few storms around lunchtime. We think that's going to start to intensify. We could have a cluster or even a broken line of storms going on right after lunchtime in central and northern Iowa, and that's mainly due to the threat of strong winds. There's also a chance that there's going to be some large hail. The tornado risk is going to be low with this activity, but around 2 to 3 in the afternoon, I think that's where the tornado risk really starts to pick up. And if that happens, we could easily see a tornado or two, not even a strong tornado. So this is something that we need to keep a very close eye on in our storm front. There will also be isolated potential for activity ahead of our fault line around 3 to 4 in the afternoon, back into northeastern Iowa or even southeastern Minnesota. Around 4 to 5 in the afternoon, notice how that activity intensifies back into central Wisconsin with a noticeable upward spiral, which means that rotation of this storm is definitely going to happen. And then there's a bunch of other storms from central and southern Iowa back into western Wisconsin, with the main danger being strong winds and a low risk of tornadoes. Then around 6 to 7 tonight, we have a big cluster moving across Wisconsin and Iowa, with that line of storms producing tornadoes together, and then that could continue to pose a tornado threat until 7 to 8 in Wisconsin. We think that after sunset, most of these storms will just produce strong winds, not really much of a tornado risk because they'll become mostly outflow winds. As we head into Friday morning and afternoon, not really expecting much in the Midwest. We'll get a little bit of a break on Friday, but severe weather is likely to return as we head into Saturday and Sunday. If you're back in the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, or the Southeast, we're looking a little further west where there's a chance for some isolated strong winds and large hail. It wouldn't be surprising to see an isolated strong wind from one of these storms later today. Then around 7, 8 o'clock, most of these storms will dissipate. We'll still have some storms going on in Alabama. These storms will actually be mostly moving west with the threat of strong winds. Not really much of a tornado threat with that activity. Then on Friday, we'll see those storms pop up again that will create an isolated threat of strong winds and tornado hail. And then if you go back to the northern plains, a couple of storms are possible today back to northern Montana, but tomorrow is going to be the big story. I think we're going to be looking at a lot of these storms breaking out around 5, 6, 7 o'clock across the Dakotas, maybe even into western Minnesota. The biggest concern with any of these storms forming is going to be very large hail and damaging winds. And then just after midnight, we're going to start to see these storms coalesce into a line of storms, or at least a cluster of storms, with damaging winds being a bigger concern in western Minnesota, and then that's going to break up as it approaches the Twin Cities early Saturday morning. Then back into the Midwest on Saturday, we're expecting a lot of storms to break out around mid to late afternoon and early evening again around and just south and west of the Twin Cities. The biggest concern with these storms is going to be damaging winds and possibly some very large hail. There's also a chance for a tornado or two. And then by Monday and Tuesday, I think things will start to settle down quite a bit. We're probably still going to have some severe weather out there. We could have some locally damaging winds, hail, maybe a low risk of tornadoes on Monday across the Central Plains and south back into the Ozarks. But around and just after July 4, I think severe weather will return in some of the Midwest, maybe even the Ohio Valley and the Northern Plains as well. Also, this is pretty crazy, but this is the initial record high temperature that we've had since June 22nd. All of the red dots indicate that record high temperatures have been observed on at least one of these days, and literally almost anywhere in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, or Northeast has had daily record high temperatures. It's crazy out here. Obviously, we're looking at more heat over the next few weeks, and I think we're going to continue to see a heat wave with the record high temperatures. That is still a possibility in areas like the Midwest and Northeast as we head into the upcoming weekend. So be prepared for that. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.